Hello and welcome to the Worn and Wound podcast. My name is Blake Bettner. We are back in studio today in Brooklyn with Josh. There's Josh. Hey, Josh.
How's it going?
Good. It's been too long, man. It's good to see you.
Likewise.
And our listeners miss you, of course. So it's nice to be back in studio here. I've also joined by Kat. There's Kat. Hey, Kat. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Good. It's good to see you again back in holding down the fort in Tennessee there.
Yeah.
And then from the other side of the world, we're thrilled to welcome Lydia Winters to the Worn Out podcast. Lydia, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being here.
Hi. Thanks so much for having me. I've been so excited to be here. And I get to be with Kat too. So I'm like right at home.
Yeah, you're kind of an alum of this process with Kat. You've been on her podcast before, of course. You are a watch enthusiast, a collector, photographer, but that's not your day job. You are the chief storyteller at Mojang Studios, which makes a game. I think it's Minecraft, right?
Yes, we make a game called Minecraft. I'm just about to hit my 11-year anniversary working on it.
Congratulations! That's awesome.
Thank you.
It's surely come a long way in 11 years. My son is a huge fan of that game. That's how I am aware of it. He was over the moon when I told him who I was talking to today. And
that's awesome. Well, tell him I said hi. Next time he can interview me for the podcast.
Yeah,
that would be great.
Yeah,
you have to do that.
All the questions would be like, about like a portal to the Nether and
exactly.
Like,
Can you add this? Can you add this?
Yeah. So, and we'll talk about all that stuff. It's right. You are in Sweden, so thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us. What are you wearing on your wrist?
So I am wearing a Zodiac Super Sealable 53, and I didn't realize until today that this is one of Kat's, 3 watches for the 5,000. So I was very excited. But Zodiac has lent this to me to just try because I haven't tried one before, and it's really fun. Yeah. So I'm excited to go out in the Swedish archipelago and take some photos and test something.
What are your initial impressions about that watch?
I really like it. So I have worn it just a bit, and I really like the Jubilee. I think it's a really nice size, and I love that actually the detail that I think is the most interesting that I haven't seen before is that the minute hand loom is in a different color. It's in blue, which matches the watch, and the rest is in green. And I thought that's a really a super cool detail and something. So if I was diving, which I'm definitely not, you could see it really quickly, which is important. Like train your eye to see that color. So I really like it.
That's a cool detail.
Awesome.
I like it when brands put in details that you might not notice when you're buying it, or it's not part of your purchase decision, but maybe like weeks later, a month later, you're like, you just noticed this detail to appreciate about them.
Yeah. So it's something you should check on that watch too, Lydia, because I know with my Zodiac Jubilee, it's got kind of like the butterfly clasp. And if you spread it apart, there's, 2.5 millimeters on each side so that it will expand as your wrist kind of expands throughout the day. I don't know if that one specifically has it, but I know the Jubilee that I have here at the house.
Oh, it does actually.
It does.
You know what?
And I didn't know that.
Without you having to press anything. It just...
Well, that's the interesting thing, because we actually looked to find where we've heard of this adjustment, but it's just because that's awesome. Because I think it's very needed to have that because it's hot. Yeah. It goes from freezing cold here to today is really warm. And so it's always a bit different. So I love watches with the...
That's so cool. I don't know why Zodiac doesn't advertise that feature a ton, and it's super handy to have.
This is so cool. It's very different too, because I don't know if you can see it on the screen for those of you listening, it just almost feels like elastic. It's not elastic, but that's the type of feeling, so that it would just
twist a flex or something.
Extend, but you don't need to do anything. I really like it's even better than normal when I have to be I'm getting swollen now. This just takes care of it for me.
Yeah.
Love it. Kat, what are you wearing?
So I'm wearing the new Grand Seiko, and I'm gonna look on the back for the reference number. It's the SB GW. I don't even see the reference number on the back. It's the pink, like 36 and a half.
Yeah.
So pretty. Congrats.
Yeah, I can't. I'm terrible at remembering the reference numbers on these things, but yeah, I haven't really taken this off. I've been wearing it quite a bit lately. It is a perfect size, and I will admit, like, most of my watches are 40 plus.
Yeah.
And this is a bit smaller. It was a bit jarring when I first got it, but really it fits really well, and like it's the size that I probably should be wearing most of the time. I just like big watches.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I find that I have a 36 millimeter Explorer, which I like wearing, and I had the same thing when I initially got it. I had a moment of, this is a lot small. But like once you wear, like after a couple of days of adjusting to it, you kind of find yourself like, why do I wear anything else? It's so comfortable, right?
Yeah, it is super comfortable.
It just takes that little bit of like, recalibrating of your wrist and how it feels on. Josh, what are you wearing?
I am wearing, I'll call it the inflation-proof Casio A15A.
Nice.
No matter
That's
what,
hilarious.
no matter what, it will always be $20.
No.
It looks great. It looks great with the whole fit.
Yeah. I make it work.
No cool hat today, but
I know.
We'll let that slide.
What about you, Blake?
I'm wearing a Black Bay Pro again.
Nice.
I feel like I was wearing this last time. And I put Blake Mallon had his 16570 in the office, so I took all my GMT, this Black Bay Pro, and the Explorer 2 off their bracelets and put all the heads right next to each other. I don't know why I like comparing watches like that, but I feel like you discern something that's not immediately obvious with these watches when you take them off their bracelets and you just put the watch itself right there. And that kind of, because I think the bracelet adds a context that you like subconsciously just kind of incorporate to the watch as a whole.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But then you put like different straps on it or different bracelets or whatever, and it totally changes the vibe of the watch. And so to like just get a sense of the watch itself, I don't know. I like taking them off the.
Well, you're also putting them on the same plane of view, and so that's important too. Because with with the different bracelets, some can be raised higher, so you can put them next to each other, and you don't really get to see it. But when you kind of strip it away, I think that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And these three watches are all like kind of different heights, especially this Black Bay Pro, which is like people rag on
chunky baby.
So I have a picture that I took in the same set of it, like from an angle that I haven't posted. So I figured I'd get a read on what people's takes were, and then if we needed to bust that out, I don't know. But I don't mind. I think it's okay for watches to be a little big, a little thick, and if they're still comfortable to wear and usable, then it's okay. There's no rules around this stuff.
I was getting ready to ask you. I was like, is it too thick?
I haven't thought of it. Like, it's not a thin watch, okay? But that's okay. It's a what does Walter say in The Big Lebowski? There are no rules. This is not knob.
Exactly.
So I guess I got that wrong. There are rules. This is not.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say.
I got that totally wrong. Anyways, I apologize before you call me out in the comments. So Lydia, you have quite the collection of watches. It's been really fun to watch it grow over the past year or so. How long have you been into watches, and how did you get into this game?
Yeah, so I've been into watches since. I mean, I wore watches growing up a lot, fossil watches and all different ones, but nothing serious, more of like, when I had them, I liked wearing them. And then I wasn't really wearing a watch very much. And Vu, my partner, Bowie Watches, he had bought me a Tag Heuer that I didn't wear very much, but I wore it a little bit and I liked it. And then he let me pick out a watch, and I picked a rose gold Cartier Tank Solo, and then I was like in love with that watch. And so I count that as my like real start to watch collecting, because it's he asked me really quickly, like, so what are you going to get next? And I was like, I don't need any other watch. I'm going to have this one watch forever. It's so beautiful. And a month later, we were going to travel up to the north of Sweden to see the Northern Lights. And I was like, I can't wear a rose gold Cartier tank on a leather strap. So I went and I bought my first Rolex, a Datejust. And then it kind of just kept, then it was like, oh, this is the perfect 2-watch collection. I don't need any more watches. It's the
famous
typical,
last words.
The famous last words.
It's true, though. It's a great 2-watch collection.
And then, it would actually be like perfect. And then at the beginning of right before COVID, we were going on a trip to Vietnam, and my Rolex was getting serviced. So I bought a little Tudor mini sub. It was just an excuse for like, oh, I need something to wear. And then when I was in Tokyo, I bought an IWC, and then it kind of like really.
Then it became a problem.
Yeah, it became a problem. Yeah, for sure. And then we were listening to a lot of Kat and Catelyn on 10 and 2. So that was,
oh gosh.
Yeah, it just like really got exaggerated at that point. So it's partially Kat's fault for sure.
Oh yeah.
Boo and Kat and Catelyn.
Yeah, isn't it funny? Like, I feel like that's such a, and I'm interested to hear your side of this too, Blake, because you've been collecting for a long time, but like, it's funny how once you kind of get into the community a little bit, like it just skyrockets from there. Like, I know for me, it's like when I kind of joined the Instagram era of watch collecting, it was just gone. Like I just started buying like crazy. I don't know, Blake, were you kind of affected by that at all?
Yeah, it's weird because it's before like Instagram was a huge thing. It's kind of a very small world of collectors that you knew that were like really in it deep. And then once Instagram came and, then I think it kind of, the floodgates opened a little bit. Because before it was like communities like Watch You Seek and Purist Pro and Time Zone. And those communities are a little intimidating, I think, to just hop into for like a casual person.
Yes.
It's like, if you're kind of at like 0 to 10, but you got to be like kind of 80 to 100 to be kind of taking part in there. So, I think Instagram allowed that space in the middle to kind of really blossom. And for all the like grief that we give it and all the like maybe downsides that it's brought to the culture, I think it's brought it's cast a much wider net. And then people, like you just end up filtering down in through to be like, okay, now you're like on the far end and you're like in it now.
Yeah,
like,
I know. I thought it was the weirdest thing, honestly, when Boo was taking photos of watches, and then he was like, you should do it too. And that is weird. I'm definitely not going to do that. And then I was going to be, Kat and Catelyn invited me to be on their podcast, and I just had my regular Instagram. And I was like, well, it would be, I could just take a photo of a watch. And then I just loved it so much. So it's like, into photography and watches, two very expensive hobbies. I have like doubled down on this.
Wait, you were like, because I remember you were photographing, flowers and things in nature, and you were honestly like really good and already using those like macro type, techniques, but just not on watches. Yeah. So you already kind of had a background there.
Yeah, definitely. It felt like it was a more natural transition than I thought it would be, because it's just like, watch. I don't know if do I like them that much? I like wearing them on my wrist, but then all of a sudden I was like, okay, actually, this is really fun, and trying to find and develop my own style versus recreating things I saw made it just really enjoyable. And it's something I really love now.
So you've always been a kind of a hobbyist photographer.
I was a pro photographer for a little while. I shot some weddings and portraits was my main thing, a few events. And it was not a very long-lasting career for me, but I did love it. So I've always loved photography. So I have that background. So it's kind of at different points I pick up the camera and have more or less inspiration. And during COVID, it was like, well, I need to get outside and do something that's fun, even though Stockholm wasn't very locked down. Boo and I were very locked down. And getting out and photographing flowers and taking the approach of like portraits of flowers. And that's how I do my watch photography too. It's like they're portraits of watches. So how do I make the watch stand out and find things that represent it? And you can get really geeky about it, which I like. What represents the brand in this watch and how it feels. So
your photography is beautiful. Of course, if you don't follow Lydia Winters on Instagram, it's at Lydia_Winters.
No, it's at Winters Watches.
At Winters Watches.
My watch account. I have a lot of Instagram accounts, so do not worry. I get them confused too.
But definitely go check them out. And one thing that I really love about your pictures, other than they're aesthetically beautiful, is that you give kind of a behind-the-scenes look at what you're thinking, how you're shooting it, new ideas that you're trying out, and whether it worked or not. So it kind of gives a good insight to what goes into some of this stuff. And watches are very tricky things to shoot.
Yes, they are.
They can vary widely depending on, and Kat of course knows this as well, like depending on the shape of the crystal or like the polish of the of a lug or something. Like a lot of challenges can present themselves. Have you like learned? Like I feel like I've learned a lot more about just photography, even though I'm not like pro level or anything. But I enjoy it. But through photographing watches, I feel like I've learned more about just basic photography than pretty much anything else.
I've learned way more. I think because you need to be so mindful of the reflections, even more so than photographing a person, obviously, because we're not made of metal, so we're not reflecting the light.
Yeah.
And at some point, not today. And so I think it's definitely made me a better photographer. Also, there's so many, anything with detail, I think it's really fun because you really need, although I am not a good like watch cleaner, so I will tell you that straight up. So my watches are like, but whatever. I'm taking off my wrist and taking a photo. So I'm like, well, that is what it is.
Yeah.
Try to make sure the crystal's clean. That is a pet peeve. But I feel like it has just really helped me find my style of photography and hone it in and feel like what's a photo that's mine that I hope when someone sees it, they feel like, oh, okay, I know that Lydia shot that. And that has, I've learned so much, and photography is interesting. It's just like watches. You can get in quite easily and then you can go as deep as you want. You'll never, like, I'll never reach like, okay, now I know it all. So, okay, because there's always something new and a different styles to try, different things to do. So I feel like my photography has shifted exponentially, especially when I look at the early photos on my watch Instagram.
Yeah. It really has. You skyrocketed like crazy. And I do really
of you, Kat. I just wanted to say your photography and the time that I've been following you is, I'm just like, what?
Yeah. Well, it's similar to you. Like, I think you just always have to be learning and, trying new stuff all the time. And I'm still like, every time I have to shoot something, I want to try something new. And I think that's what makes it fun for me is a challenge. And and I was going to say, I really do like the behind the scenes stuff that you do. I wish I need to do it myself too, but I think it's so helpful for people coming into it that are just like, I don't even know where to start. I don't know how to get the things that you guys do. And it's super helpful for those people that are just buying a camera or even just using their iPhone to, take watch shots too.
I think photography is
tricks.
I think photography is so fun that, anytime you can, I think for the community, anytime we can be more open, and that's with knowledge, both about watches or about photography, like we just make a better community where it's not competitive. Like we're all in a great and fun hobby. So, you can learn from all different people. And I also learn from my behind the scenes, because sometimes when I look at it, I'm like, if I would have just moved, you go like, if I would have moved this over a tiny bit, it could have been a bit better. And so it started from one shot that I had taken very early on, which was a loom shot, which I can say is my least favorite. I just do not like loom shots. I do not like taking them at all, because I enjoy like more light and airy photography. So that is not, I like looking at them, but they're not for me. But I shot one, and it was in my old, like the room in the house we bought had like this huge Lion King wall, like an actual full mural of Lion King.
Wow.
And I, put a mirror on the ground and used a flashlight and took this photo that came out really cool because it just looked like the background's like kind of green and the loom. And I was like, no one would believe what this looks like. Like, I took it and I'm kind of like, what? And so that was my first behind the scenes. And then I thought, well, I enjoy looking at the way people shoot, because you learn so much. Even if it's just a behind the scenes photo, you can take so much information from it and learn for yourself. So I thought, well, why not do this? And then also add in like really weird captions that kind of give you a bit about who I am.
That's our personality. Yeah, it's great. Did the people that have known you and followed you for a long time, do you get a lot of what's with the watches all of a sudden? Like, do people understand it, or is it kind of a thing that you have to explain?
For me, actually, up until Hasselblad heroines, which that kind of like converged my worlds together, because I kept everything very separate as far as like my watch account was very separate. So like I talked about my job and what I do, like very personal, but nothing really other than my name linked it to my main Instagram account. But when Hasselblad Heroines have it, I was like, who cares? Now it's time. It's time for everyone to know. I'm so excited about this. Like, this is so huge. So then, I mean, most people are just kind of like, oh, you have a lot of watches? That's weird. Because people who don't care about watches don't care. But then it's fun to also find the people who, there's a lot of people at work that do like watches, or you find someone's like, I've been reading a lot of Hodinkee, and you're like, okay, so you're not just casually in this. Yeah. Like you're, they're, a friend is just suddenly going through, I'm reading all the watch blogs, I'm getting all, and you're like, oh, I thought you had a watch. Like, yeah, which I find really fun, and it opens up conversations. And I've just started commenting on people's watches, and it's hit or miss. Yeah. But I think the hits are so much more worthwhile. Like the misses are usually like a dude, like, yeah, like, oh, okay, I told you exactly which model. I was trying to so I usually start by like, oh, I'm a watch nerd. But with some people, it's been really great, like sitting on an airplane next to a woman wearing, like a very small woman wearing an Explorer 2. And I was like, how cool is that? And like, we chatted so much, and it never would have happened without watches. So I feel like it can bring a lot of people together, and you hear stories about people that are very personal very quickly. And so I'm like, that's worth a couple of dudes being like, watches. Yeah. You can't even get a Rolex now. Like, okay, cool. Like, that's not the conversation I'm gonna have with you. No, thank you.
Or did you get it at retail? It's like, come on.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, okay. Okay, never mind. I'm gonna go back to my phone.
Yeah. So I find it funny, like the video game industry, or people that enjoy video games, that grew up in like the 80s and 90s playing games that still enjoy them to this day, are now kind of the age where they're like maybe getting into, or like have disposable income to like have nice watches or think about watches. Or even if it's not like expensive watches, just be into watches in general, because they grew up in that era and they're enthusiastic about it. Is this something that you notice, or is there a convergence? Like I noticed that Hamilton put a watch in like a Far Cry game last year, and looking at the new Starfield footage, I see that one of the devices that will probably be a part of that game is a watch. So it seems like something that's maybe being embraced or at least recognized by the gaming industry. Do you see that from your perspective as well?
Yeah, I definitely do. I mean, I think that, the watch industry at large is a pretty slow moving machine. And many times with video games, what I've found is like there's certain times where one whole industry like realizes video games exist and they're big. What? And I feel like watches might, they're like right on the cusp of being like, whoa, how, video games seem like people play a lot of them. You're like,
and it's not just for
more
kids
than watch TV. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so I've definitely seen that, and I think it's really great. And with the watch community and enthusiasts, I see so many similarities in the Minecraft gaming community, which I feel like is really fun. That you're kind of, especially early days, you're like close to a lot of people that are playing. You're like one person away from all of these cool people doing great things in the industry. Like you, Blake, I was one person away with Kat. So, it's like, I think that's really like fun. And when you have a smaller community, that's what you get. And that's a really cool thing to be like talking to watch company CEOs just very casually on Instagram. I mean, it's a very big luxury that I think we probably, even myself included, take for granted a bit. That's really awesome.
Like, is anyone talking to like the CEO of Nike on Instagram? And
exactly.
It's like, it's weird how connected just even like regular customers and followers are to like really big brands, like huge brands that have been around forever. And it is such a cool community for sure.
Yeah, it is. It's a tight knit community, and of course, like our interests are varied. And I think the stereotype is usually like watch guys and like car guys and vintage Porsches and all this kind of stuff. And like it's not the case anymore. I think there's a lot more like diversity represented in this hobby now. And again, like the video game thing, like adult people that have real jobs and all that kind of stuff like are really into this stuff and are passionate about it, enthusiastic about it. And so it's easy to see like that they've got a lot of attention in these spaces, and that watch brands should be paying attention to that. And so and there's a lot of great stories to be telling obviously there too. And I feel I like it. I don't know how it make like they insert these things or their stories into this world in like a natural, organic way, but I don't know. I guess that's the storyteller's job.
I think it's interesting, and I think with the games that it's kind of like it's very similar to movies for some of the games. Like if it's used for something, then that makes it automatically more fun than if it's just someone talks about, oh, I have this watch on. Like, but what are you doing with it? Yeah. Even though I still get excited about those cameos in movies or games, but I think as soon as you can make it useful, then it also becomes more fun for people. And then if you can have that, this awesome watch in real life like that, it makes a lot of sense. And it's really fun for story-driven games to be able to, take watches into that world, and then a world that you love, you get to have it, represented on your wrist. Like it makes complete sense. So to me, it's like, this is not surprising. The most surprising thing is that it's not more widely adopted at this point.
Role playing is such a big deal, right? In these games, and I know a lot of people get into games explicitly because they can kind of make of it what they want, right? Like the Skyrims of the world, and Minecraft. I suppose like I'm not as familiar with Minecraft, but well, there's a new one. Well, I was just watching with my kid this thing. Microsoft did the Microsoft Bethesda, and they showed a new Minecraft. Was it a new Minecraft?
It's another Minecraft game called Minecraft Legends.
Okay.
So it's like under the Minecraft umbrella. So we have different games, Minecraft being the one that's been around the longest, and then we expand the world with Minecraft Dungeons, Minecraft Legends. So it's really, really fun.
Oh, very cool. Is this a game that and I know you can kind of make of it what you want, but like, is there a formal, like, this is a story path that you're on in this game, like when you start playing it, and then you can like go off and do whatever you want, like an open world? Or
this game is different, so I'm not going to say too much about it so I don't get myself into trouble by oversaying, because obviously I know everything about it.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think we're slowly dripping that out to the community to get to know more. So over the summer, and especially over the autumn, there's going to be a lot more about sort of how the game works, which is really fun. So but it's going to be awesome. It's very different, and then Minecraft continues to be updated and things added to it, so that world keeps expanding. And I think that's it's such a special thing to so many people.
When I was
not a replacement, it's just different.
It's just different. Well, when I was watching it though, I was reminded of like E3 that used to be a thing, and it's kind of analogous to Basel World that used to be a thing, and all these events around how new watches and products and stories are told around these things are like kind of in flux right now and changing. I know Jeff Keighley's got his thing, the Summer Games Fest, and then Microsoft's got theirs. But it's like everybody's trying to find their footing right now.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, I've been on stage at E3 for the Microsoft, the Xbox showcase for I don't know, I think I've done it 3 or 4 years.
Wow.
Like huge presentations, which were, amazing, but it was all around it was with the convention there. And so then I think when people weren't able to have a convention, then you're like, well, you can still have a digital experience. And for us with Minecraft, we actually transitioned to a digital show, I think 5 years ago. So we were like, we're ready. So that made it a lot easier when the pandemic hit and we weren't able to fly everyone in, and meet with our team as much. We still had, it was already digital. I think for companies, especially watch brands, you see this they're still trying to figure out digital. I mean, the Watches and Wonders live stream. I'll just dot that and just like not say more. But those are things that will hopefully, they'll continue to improve the more that people do them. But I think it's always about recognizing your audience. And that's hard still with that Basel World Watches and Wonders. Like, are we talking to enthusiasts or industry and industries at the event? And so I think it's like once they kind of, my brand side is like once they find all those lanes and then think about how to appeal, like if I was working on it, I'd be really excited. Like, okay, here's the enthusiast, like news, like talk show where they're like talking to the CEOs, and like the way in which that is happening is so different than, this very formal broadcast.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, and I think traditionally, obviously, Basel was it's a trade show, and retailers would come and see the watches and place their orders and all this kind of stuff, and it's like thinking, and then it would be open to the public like in the later days and stuff like that. So, with the gaming thing, it's. I don't know. I guess maybe it was a little bit like this with Basel and E3, where they're a little analogous, where it was kind of like the Super Bowl of like, it's gonna be like overload of everything kind of coming at once, and it'd be like the week you look forward to all throughout the year. Yeah, exactly. And now brands I think are kind of taking more of like a seasonal type approach, which also works.
E3 was actually the same. It was industry only. When I went, which was when I met the Mojang team, so 11 years ago. I used friends who I worked with. I used the press credentials for the work I was doing for him, which was not related to gaming at all, but it was press. So it was like a perfect way to get in. So it was, very, very similar to what Basel was, except, on a much larger scale, because the amount of journalists for gaming is very different than the watch world. And then you're like, thinking about like size and scope of just the convention center. It was very different, but there's so many similarities to like Toy Fair, which I've been to when I was working on the Minecraft products. And you see, it's that like some booths are closed off and so, and like because it was about sales, which is, very important. So it's interesting to see how once they've gone a little hybrid, is like, does it need to be? Maybe not, because we have amazing, we have you all, putting out the content. So like that, maybe they also decide like, but this is what it was intended for. It's like the journalists get to come and then they write about stuff and all of us can read it. So
hopefully it's informative. I think we go and try to kind of just make of it what we want and and hope it works out. But sometimes the brands, I don't want to say anything too, but we look at them and like the whole point of us being here is so that we can help you tell the stories that you want told about your new products and show them in the best light possible. So like sitting down with 15 other journalists for like 10 minutes to look at the watches, it's not a very good way for any of us to do that. So we should rethink like how we approach this kind of thing so that we all get what we want out of it. So
exactly. I think it's like the growing pains as the industry gets bigger, as you have creators who also become amazing news sources for the community. So I think I saw some of that embraced with people attending Watches and Wonders, like Adrian from Bark and Jack, and you go, okay, well that also creates this, how do you figure out where everyone fits, to your point, and like how do you actually get that time and to be able to show off and talk about these amazing things when you really you need to spend some time to make an informed decision or give a good take versus just like, here's a list of the stats on the watch that you could find anywhere. Like that becomes less interesting. It's like, what does Kat think about these? Like, I want to know.
It's interesting. I think that's a great point. It's and I see that with kind of the gaming world and some of the things I've seen on YouTube with conventions and releases and things like that, where the brands have a very exciting way, especially Minecraft for one. The whole team there is amazing, and they're very excited, and they can't wait to share the stuff with their customers and and the people that are playing the game. Whereas like in our world, it's such like, I don't want to say stuffy, but you're more excited to see, like you said, Adrian from Bark and Jack or us at One and Wound or someone else talk about the watch rather than you could care less what the brand's presentation is. You want to see someone else tell their story. And not that that's a bad thing, but I would like to see the brands themselves just take more of an action into presenting something really cool because they are the ones that have the budget to do so.
Yeah, I think they did a little more last year when everyone released at different times, like not this past year, but the year before when there were lots of videos. And like, I remember the tutor guy, he had like a fun voice and like, here's the releases. And then, so I thought that was going to happen this year too. So Boo and I were like, let's make some videos for our channel. This is going to be so fun. And then it was just like, hit enter, all press releases go out. You're like, oh, this is what it was like. It was like we hadn't been part of it before, so we didn't realize that last year was an anomaly, and then this year it's back to like doors open at trade show, here's all the information goes out, it's all live, versus like it was really fun to have those different times, you know, and be like, okay, everybody, like Cartier is going to tell us what it is, you know, that excitement, like community wise, obviously different for all of the journalists who are there covering it.
What's the big event that I know you and Vu did with Minecraft when there's like a huge audience? What is that called?
Yeah. So we do Minecraft Live. We haven't had an audience the past couple years, and it used to be a convention, and then now it's our yearly show. So like our developers talk about what they're doing, what's coming. And to your point, Kat, it's very different because we're showing everything early versus after. So there's this, it's a very different story, which is like, oh, here's what we're working on. What do you think about it as we're working on it? And with the watch industry, everything is so secretive and the community is not involved. Enthusiasts aren't involved in any way. Once the release happens, you are, but it's not like, which of these three colors would be the color? You know, it's just kind of like, here it is, it's done. You know, what do you think of it? So I wonder if there's ways that as watches become, you know, as there's more representation and diversity in the community and within watchmaking, like, does that start to shift? I hope so, because I think there could be a lot of fun in that. You don't have to take every idea that everyone has or every decision to a group vote. But I think there's times where if watch brands could show more of the, like, here's what we're doing, it would be really fun to see.
And you have some brands that are doing that and aren't shying away from it. You know, I think that's really cool. I urge any brands that are hopefully watching this, go check out one of those Minecraft lives, because the hype and the excitement that's around it, it's really cool. It's really cool. I really hope that some watch brands can take note of that.
Yeah, we need private test servers and beta releases in the watch world.
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny. And shout out to Adrian too. I just was with him in Zurich a few weeks ago at a Breitling event, and got a chance to chat with him for a while. Lovely guy. So maybe we'll get him on.
That'd be pretty cool. I watch his channel all the time.
Yeah, he's a real nice guy. And he had an Explorer 2 on as well. So it's nice to see.
His second Explorer 2.
His second Explorer 2.
Which is the same as Boo. Yep. And they both sold their first ones.
But they had
bought it back.
The same reference though, or
no, they had different references, but they both sold them like, I don't know if I like this. Then yes, I really want this.
It comes
watch.
back to it. I know. I've had an Explorer 2 as well, and I think often about going back into it.
Okay, so you will be the third person to get on that.
Effect. Yeah, it is.
It
the 16570 is still a watch that just kind of like sticks in the back of my mind. It's a.
I know. I regret selling mine as well.
We've all been there. So what your collection's in a really great place right now. What are you thinking about? Like, where do you go from here? How do you see it evolving? Are you the kind of person that would like, oh, I've got these like 5 really nice watches, I'm going to sell them all and get like one super nice watch? Or are you going to kind of keep like building, or where do you go from here?
Yeah. So, with my collection, I think probably getting into the community and actually pre-community, but like going on that trip to Vietnam, then picking up a watch in Tokyo. I think I just like got too many watches too quick. That's the typical like getting in.
That's a normal move.
Getting in deep. It's it's like I am not different. Did the same exact mistake as like everyone. So I think now I think a lot about my style more and what's missing from my collection. But I do think it's hard when you have, as Kat said, not only on Instagram, but then you're meeting up with all your watch friends. And they're like, try my watch, wear it, And I think especially for me, like I don't have tiny wrists, but when I'm trying something on at the boutique, obviously it's not fitted to me. And I think especially like for my wrists or smaller wrists, everything always feels a bit off when it's not the right, you're like holding it on and like, maybe this would work. So I've found, I was in Boo and I went to the UK to visit Watch Gringa, who we love, and her partner, and the two of them, she has a Daytona. And so then wearing it in the correct size, I was like, I have never liked this watch before. And now I am in love with it. So I think it's always interesting, as I see more watches, try them on, and especially try them on from other people with similar size wrists, then all of a sudden you're like, you get a much bigger feel for it. I have some watches that just I don't love. So I will get rid of like the Seamaster Trilogy Edition. Like I just don't love it. And Omega bracelets are just not for me. Okay. I know some people love them, but because it doesn't taper, it's just so big on my wrist that was one of the sort of the deciding factor that put me over the edge on it. Was like, I love wearing a bracelet. And if I bought this amazing watch that I don't ever want to wear on a bracelet, like it doesn't work.
I'm gonna go ahead and say you should try the new Speedmaster. Comes on a lovely bracelet that has a taper.
Yeah, that is everything I've heard. Is that bracelet is like incredible.
Yeah, it's great.
So
because I'm the same as you. I don't like Omega-based bracelets, but when that came out, it was like they're onto something.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah, and I mean, some people love them, and I think everything depends on your wrist. So it's not. I'm very happy when I see people in every kind of watch. Like I am zero watch snob. I just think if you're wearing a watch, that's cool. Like we have something in common. We both like wearing watches, whether it's an Apple Watch or the most expensive watch. I would not be the person to sell my watches and buy one expensive one because I like changing watches, wearing different things, like photographing different watches, deciding on the mood, the tone I want to set for that day. But I am going to trim some of the fat and probably buy a watch with that money. So I've decided to like keep the money in the watches. So if I sell things, don't just use that money for something else. But it's like, that was a watch. I had set aside that money for a watch. So then is there something else I'm saving for or want to have?
It's only fair.
There's always another watch, and I'm all over the place with what I want next. It will change like if the wind blows. That's because there's just too many cool watches. So it's like,
what's on your mind like right now? Like what's the watch that like lately you've been crushing on?
I mean, that Daytona I really loved, which is the black dial, and the silver, and it just matched my style so well that I was like, oh, especially when it fit my wrist. I was like, this looks like me. Yeah. But also, I've been looking a lot at the older, 80s, 90s women, the lady Datejust, because they're on the president bracelet, and like that's cool. Rock an all gold tiny watch. I think that would be kind of fun. They have some cool, like really funky dials that like you don't see now on Rolex. So I think there's something there. I love the Glashütte original CQ. I got to see that for the first time on my trip in April, and I just love it. I don't know which dial I would pick, the green or the black one, but they're just a really cool looking watch. So that it's all over there. And then someday it could be like a vintage Cartier or depends on the day and what I'm sort of searching on Chrono 24.
Okay. Sure. The Daytona is a funny watch. I feel like a lot of people don't realize just how small it is if they haven't seen one. And it's I think it's listed at 40. The times that I've measured, it's closer to 39, I think. And of course, it's kind of svelte. It wears on the wrist very well.
It wears really nicely. That was one of the things that I wear big watches like Kat, but I just was like, this fits
it's perfection.
And I thought, it's perfect. It's really cool.
Yeah.
And I'm, I regret that the yellow got discontinued, the yellow OP. So I'm now I like, again, because this was like my second Watches and Wonders kind of like observing. I didn't think about, I only thought about what was coming and what was new, not what was leaving. And so I was like, no. Yeah. So now I feel like this deep fear about the Daytona because next year's like the big anniversary. And I'm like, I want that one. I don't want it changed to the bigger case. So I'm having this very, oh no.
Yeah. 1963. I would be. I'd be pretty bummed if it moved it to a 41 millimeter.
So I'm like, but that's the trend that they've had. So it's like when you look at what they've been doing, it's like they're telling us something. So I'm like, they're telling me you need it now.
Yes, we need it.
Obviously.
Yeah. Do you still have that rose gold Cartier?
Yes, I do. That will stay in my collection forever. That is my I don't know. If for some reason I had to sell everything, that would be the last holdout. I love it so much. I actually want to get a new strap for it because an alligator or crocodile leather, it's a little more formal than my style. So I'd like to start wearing it more, but that is my go-to watch if I have a hard day or just, want to have that pep up, just look down at my wrist and be like, oh, this is so beautiful. Because it's a Cartier. And I know I've been programmed since being a tiny girl to be like, Cartier, but it's, you get that red box and you can't help it.
Yeah.
That's
it's like a little treasure chest.
It really is.
Yeah.
It is just, a very magical thing. So that is that one is definitely staying.
I think we should all have a watch that we can go back to and it kind of reminds us of what got us so enthusiastic about this hobby in the first place. Kat, do you have a watch like that you're like, oh yeah, like this puts me right back in this place?
Me?
Yeah.
I think I wish I had the original Seiko that I bought that really kickstarted my obsession with watches, which was the SKX 013, which I need to pick one up. But anytime I wear a Seiko, that, just the brand itself, the whole brand represents kind of that first, love with automatic watches. And so,
that's awesome.
I have a couple Seikos now and they are super special to me. And I enjoy wearing my Rolex and Cartiers and everything else. But when I wear a Seiko, it brings back that initial love. And it's what still a lot of people get involved with when they're first getting into the hobby. And that is something really, really cool. So I would say just Seiko in general for me.
You never grow out of Seiko, right?
No.
What about you?
Up into the stratosphere. I have an old Seiko, a 7002. That's the first automatic watch I ever had, and I still have it to this day. So this is the predecessor to the SKX 009. So it's got the red and blue, but it's the kind that you have to you got to shake it to get it going. You can't wind it. But that's one that I go back to, and it kind of puts me right back in that place. And because I think it's easy to get to once you get too far in, you kind of take certain things for granted, or you kind of keep moving up or moving over there, moving in different directions. So it's kind of the starting point of your lane, and it kind of sets the template for how your taste and what you like to collect. And I've always argued that we should kind of test those boundaries a little bit and have some weird things, have some things that kind of push you out your comfort zone a little bit. But you always got to have that one that you can go back to and it kind of reminds you.
Yeah, exactly. I actually think, the Tank is probably my favorite watch, but the one for me is my Rolex Datejust, because it's just the tried and true. You know, it's the one that I just started wearing every single day and kept wearing, and I've worn around the world on, you know, almost every trip I've been on, you know, which I was traveling so much at the time. But then when I got a few more Rolex, I stopped. I just didn't wear that one as much, especially because I have an OP. And then I was like, okay, well, you know, it's not really that different, the Datejust and the OP. And for me,
sure.
But then I changed to a Jubilee bracelet at the beginning of the year, and it's like turned that watch back. And I was like, if I had one watch, that would be the watch. Like it looks very retro when it's only, you know, 8 years old, and now it just has this totally different look. But it's the one that when I have on, I'm like, this is the watch.
I think
it's the one that's the most watchy.
It represents so much more too, and I think the more that you start doing, the more experiences that you build up, it becomes more than just like, oh, it's a Rolex Datejust, and it's this or that. Like exactly. It's all these things that I've done in it, and you know, I've got an old it's not an old sub. Wow, I can't believe I said that. It's a 6-digit. It's a 114060. But it's, you know, it's 8-10 years old now. But the things that I've done in it, like kind of if I hadn't done those, it probably would have been a watch that would have been on the chopping block and all that kind of stuff. But and like I've had a lot of other like older vintage subs, which I think wear far better and are far prettier and all that kind of stuff. But it's not the point. Like it means something more to me. So
exactly. And that was the first watch that I bought myself, like the first luxury watch. So that one's like, okay, this is the Cartier Tank is something different. It's like this beautiful and iconic watch I never thought I'd own. And then with the Datejust is like also beautiful and iconic, and I never thought I'd own. But you know, that I bought it myself, so it added that, and it was for like this, for being more adventurous. And I have worn it around the world, so it's delivered on that. Yeah,
no, that's awesome.
It's awesome.
Lydia, excuse me. Bless you. It's been a huge honor, like having you on the podcast. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely.
Where can, if people have heard of Minecraft and they're Minecraft curious, where should they go to learn more about it, or maybe even give it a try?
Yeah, I mean, Minecraft.net is an easy one. I think it's Minecraft is probably one of the easiest things to find online.
Was that a very old man thing of me to say?
Yeah.
Where do people go to find this here game you're talking about?
Where do you find Minecraft? On the line. All right. But I mean, it's a very creative and fun game that, you know, I think you should be playing with your son. Like, so that's my challenge to you is like get in the world, or at least go and see what he's doing in the world, because it'll probably surprise you. Yeah, I would love to. I like building things in video games too. I play the Fallout games, so we build camps together in Fallout, and so that's awesome.
And he will go and do like the same thing in Minecraft. So
so you're made for it. You're ready.
exactly. So and where can people find you? I know you said you've got a few accounts. Where do you want people to go look for you on Instagram?
My watch account is Winters Watches, and then, you know, everywhere else. Basically, if you search Lydia Winters on Instagram, you'll see like 3 different accounts, and one is flowers, and one is watches, and one is my regular. Well,
if you like flowers, go follow that one. If you like watches, follow. So it's all good. Lydia, thank you so much for the time today. It's been a huge pleasure having you here.
Yeah, this is amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Well, hopefully we'll have you on again sometime when you're in New York. Maybe you can come and hang out with us
that would be awesome.
And chat watches in person. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions for Lydia, send them down to the comments below, and we will let her know. And until next time, thanks for listening. Take care.